Self-care is one of those things that I think is so incredibly important to implement and integrate into our lives, but it can often feel foreign and just really confusing at first, especially if we don't really understand what it looks like or how to tailor it to our specific needs and our specific lives. And so I made a little list of some ways that I practice self-care as an autistic person, and I wanted to share it with you today in case a few of these things can resonate with you, and maybe you can take some of these things to integrate into your life as well. So I want to welcome you back to another video. And I just want to say real quick, thank you all for the support on this YouTube channel. I started this I think in January of this year, and we're already at like 23,000 subscribers, which is amazing. And I want to express my gratitude to all of you who comment on the videos, who watch the videos, and who are subscribed. And if you're not subscribed yet, then please subscribe. I'm going to make it my intention to continue uploading these videos 1 to 2 times each week with longer form content. And if you also want to see some shorter form content, I upload all my TikToks on here, or all my TikToks and Reels on here as YouTube Shorts as well. So thank you all for being here. Let's go ahead and get started with what self-care looks like for me as an autistic person. The first thing that I have on my list is intentionally regulating my nervous system. I find that for me personally, it feels like if I don't do this, that I am just forever dysregulated. It's like I'm in this like really anxious and overwhelmed state like 90% of the time. And so I need to make it an intentional practice to do the things that can help calm my nervous system down a little bit. And there's so many different things that you can do, and you can do a little bit more research to find specifically what might work for you. But just some examples from my life that I use are legs up the wall. I like to lay on the floor with my back on the floor, and then I put my legs up the wall with my feet in the air. And just laying there, even listening to some like calming music while doing that, just laying there for like 10 to 15 minutes can be really helpful, especially if I'm in a state where it's like so hard to get out of that like anxious, obsessive, ruminating state in my mind and my body where I just feel so activated. This is something that can just calm me down, and I don't have to do much to access this state either. Like I can do it pretty much anywhere. Another regulation tool that I use is humming. This is actually one way that I stim. When I'm out in public, like I feel like I'm always humming. I think it's kind of like my body's way of regulating itself, and a lot of times I do it without even thinking about it. But even just some like intentional hums, or even like chanting Om, it feels good. It feels grounding. Another way that I help regulate myself is through movement. Of course, the things like going to the gym and things like that, but something that's more quick and accessible is just shake, 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 shake. And just do this for maybe like 1 minute. You can even put on like your favorite song and just like move your body to that song. That can just kind of move some energy around in your body, and it can change like your physical state, especially if you're feeling a little bit like cooped up or more reserved. This can help you feel a little bit more free and just get your heart rate up. That always feels really good. So those are just like some really simple things that work for me when it comes to regulating my nervous system. But there's so many things that you can do. And if this is something that you want to integrate into your life, I definitely recommend doing a little bit more research and finding some things that work for you. The next thing that I have on my list to practice self-care as an autistic adult, hold on. I'm out of breath from that like 10-second shake. Okay, so the next thing is utilizing sensory accommodations. These can be things like fidget tools, like this one that I have right here. It could be like using earplugs or headphones when in loud environments. It could be wearing sunglasses, even if you're not outside. This is something that I'm trying to get a little bit more comfortable with when like going into those like stores that have the just like really bright fluorescent lights. Those always overstimulate me. It like not just hurts my eyes, but it's like it takes like almost like so much energy and effort to try to like tune it out and to be present that I can't do it. And so I'm trying to be a little bit more comfortable with wearing sunglasses inside and trying to not worry as much what people think about me. This is definitely a practice though. Some other like sensory accommodations are like weighted blankets, weighted stuffed animals. For me, like smells are a really big thing. So I always keep like an essential oil, usually like lavender, because I find that that smell is really calming and it's a smell that I actually enjoy. So I keep like one of those rollers and I just put a little bit on my wrist and I'll rub just a little bit on my nose, and that helps like mask a smell if there's like, if someone's wearing a lot of cologne or if there's just like a really strong scent in the environment that is starting to overwhelm me. That will kind of like block that a little bit. Chewing gum, that's another one for me. Like after eating, I hate the like the taste of like food, or like I hate the taste of my mouth after eating food, especially if the food was like really flavorful. So chewing gum, and it's also, it helps me stim as well, like moving my mouth and stuff. Those are just like some of the things that work for me. And again, feel free to look up like some other sensory accommodations for autistic people to find ones that work for you too. The next thing on my list is scheduling no demand days. This has been huge for me within this past year. These days act as sort of like a buffer for me to just like reset. I get pretty overwhelmed with just daily life, and if I don't have these like intentionally scheduled days to allow myself to rest and reset, then that's when I get a shutdown. That's when I could potentially enter burnout, where I just am so exhausted and so fatigued. So these are more kind of like a preemptive, whatever the word is, measure to just like make sure that I don't get as exhausted as often, to make sure that when I do get overwhelmed, I have a day where I can relax a little bit. I try to schedule these at least maybe like once every 2 weeks, sometimes once a week if it's a really hard time in my life. On these no demand days, I make it clear to my partner that like I'm having a no demand day, and so if there's like something you need me to do, or if there's an ask you have of me, either please be like really mindful in the way that you approach it, if it's something that is like absolutely necessary, or if it's something that isn't super urgent, maybe can we wait till the next day to discuss it. And this also means like limiting the demands that I have on myself, trying not to do as much work that day, being okay if I don't get as many chores done that day. And really, like, these days are always different. Some days it is like I literally just want to stay home and do absolutely nothing with the blinds shut. Other days it's, you know what, I have nothing on my agenda today, and so I'm going to do something that like I have the energy for, but that doesn't require a lot of like effort, like maybe just going for a nice walk outside, or just like indulging in my special interest. Maybe it's like DJing or mixing music or something fun like that. Just like these days are days where I get to choose what I want to do depending on what I need to do that day. Again, some days it is like doing nothing and like in the literal sense resting, or other days it is like doing the things that help me feel fulfilled and just excited about my life. So these days are always going to look different, and I understand that like we all have obligations in our lives. So if you can't do these like once every 2 weeks like I do, maybe like once a month. But these really, really, really are helpful. And I know it might be hard to like take a day off from doing everything, but I really find that the long-term benefits are definitely worth it, especially as someone who deals with a lot of overwhelm with just like the daily tasks of life that we have to do. The next thing on my list is making time to find sensory joy. Sensory joy for me it's like this like ecstatic feeling of like a full body, just like excitement. And things that like bring me sensory joy are watching moving water, like a river or a creek flowing, or watching waves crash up on the shore. Listening to music brings me a lot of sensory joy. And the other thing that brings me sensory joy is lifting weights. I've realized that I'm a proprioceptive sensory seeker, and so I just love that like heaviness and then the grounding feeling that it brings when I like utilize my muscles and move my body in that way. Those are the things that bring me sensory joy. They're probably going to be different for you, as we're all different people and we all have different sensory preferences. But maybe start like exploring that a little bit. Like, what things make me feel so joyful, and start incorporating that into your life as much as you can. The next thing on practicing self-care for me as an autistic person is being okay with canceling plans. This is something that I've definitely struggled with a lot in the past, because I certainly don't want to let anyone down, but I'm also learning too that like there are times where maybe, let's just say like going to like a social gathering is going to be like literally detrimental to my well-being, like to the point that afterwards I will be so exhausted that I won't be able to function for the next day or two. And so just really like taking note of these things, and if it is going to be that detrimental to your own well-being, to your own health, to your mental health, it's okay to cancel that plan. It is okay. And we can just hope that those people would understand. Sometimes they might not. And that's where it gets really uncomfortable and really hard. And it's just kind of like being okay with having to let people down every now and then in order to like take care of yourself. It's really hard, and it's definitely a practice. And so, I mean, like if it, this one's hard because like I completely understand like not wanting to let people down, but then there's the other side of it where it's like you have to listen to yourself. If you can't be in like this isn't the best word, but in like a positive state, then it's not going to be good for anyone. So you might as well like listen to your body and listen to your needs, and make sure that you're honoring those things. The next thing is kind of going along with this, which is saying no a lot of the time. I have to say no to a lot of things, a lot of opportunities, a lot of invites, social gatherings, plan ideas, vacations. And at first, again, it is really uncomfortable, but I feel like over time I've gotten a little bit better with it, with saying no without that like lingering guilt or shame around it. Because I do understand that like this thing, while it might be a little bit of fun, it's actually not going to be good for me. And kind of going back to the example of like having to cancel the plan when it's like a social gathering, like I might have to say no to this thing preemptively because it's going to affect me in such a negative way. And it's really kind of about like learning what those things are over time, so that you start like remembering, okay, last time I went to this thing, last time I said yes to this thing, I remember what the consequences were, and it's just not worth it to me in this era of self-care in my life. And so I am going to have to say no. The next thing is allowing yourself to rest shame-free, which again is really, really, really hard, especially in this society where we're constantly being told that we have to be go, go, go all the time. We have to be productive. We have to be working towards this or that. But sometimes we just need some rest, especially as neurodivergent people. We get tired more easily. We get fatigued more easily. Our brains are working all the time. And so it means we're going to need to rest more. And this is kind of like the acceptance piece of accepting, like, this is the way my brain works. And so I need to be supportive of it. And when we take that time to rest, whether it is like literally like laying in bed and resting, or just like decreasing the amount of tasks that we have for that day, it's going to feel uncomfortable, but it's necessary for our well-being as well. And I like to say this, that for us as autistic people, I think rest is actually one of the most productive things that we can do, because it allows us to have a little bit more processing time. It allows us that space that we need to work through a lot of the thoughts in our minds, again, with like processing things, but also it can help us reset our social batteries. It can help us with so many things. And I find that after I do let myself rest, that I actually come back feeling a lot better and even more productive. And so that's why I say it is one of the most productive things that we can do. The next thing is allowing ourselves to stim and fidget. As I'm playing with this one right here, I think that for many of us who mask, we also try to keep our stems a little bit more subtle. But I've been working on like not needing to do that as much, and I know that it's hard in like public settings, and in public settings I definitely still I sit like very rigid and like try to hold still, because I don't want to be seen as like weird or like, what is that person doing? But like at home in our safe space, like there's always like sounds coming out of my mouth, like echolalia. I'm always letting myself like stim and fidget in a way that I need to at home. And something that I realized last night, I don't know if anyone does this, like when I eat, I have my knee up like this, and this is how I eat. This is the most comfortable way for me to eat. When I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to do that, and now at home I let myself do that just because it makes the whole process more comfortable for me. So just like little things like that, honoring our natural tendencies, again, as long as they're not like harmful to ourselves or others. I think it can be really important for us to do that, because these are our body's natural way of like regulating ourselves and making us feel more comfortable, as most of the time we feel really uncomfortable in our minds and in our bodies. The next thing on my list is accepting that I will have shutdowns, and when I do get these shutdowns, just like letting them pass. Before I like was able to accept this, I would be really disappointed in myself when I would have a shutdown, or I would feel really ashamed about it. And now it's like, it's just kind of like, it's almost like routine for me. Like, oh, this is me having a shutdown. Okay, this is uncomfortable, but I know that it's not going to be this way forever, and I just need to get through it. I just need to let it pass. It's going to be okay. I might be tired tomorrow, but this isn't the end of the world. And just kind of like reminding myself that when when these do happen. And it's just really important that we give ourselves grace when our autism is like showing itself, if that makes sense. Because yeah, it is really hard and it is really uncomfortable, but like this is how our brains work, and the only way to get through it is to get through it. We can't really avoid it. The next way that I practice self-care is by moving my body daily. Most days for me, it's going to the gym because that's what I love. And that definitely might not be something that you find is accessible for you. It might be really overstimulating, and I understand that. But even just like 10 or 15 minutes of stretching and yoga, it can feel really good. Just move that energy around, going for walks, dancing, playing sports if that's your thing. Movement is really helpful for both autistic and non-autistic people, but I find for me especially, because I often feel like my brain is so disconnected from my body, that it kind of brings it all back into balance and definitely helps me feel more grounded, which is huge for me because a lot of times I feel really ungrounded. The next way that I practice self-care, I think I actually already talked about this a little bit when it came to like canceling plans and saying no, but that is to learn my own cues for when I am starting to get a little bit overwhelmed. This is something that takes time. It might take a little journaling or note-taking to start understanding this. Like, what happens before I have a shutdown? What do I feel before I have a shutdown? What do I feel before I start having really bad challenges with my executive functioning? For me, I notice that when I start to get overwhelmed or overstimulated in my body, I feel like really hot. I feel really irritable. I feel really short. I feel really reactive. I start getting incredibly obsessive, even more obsessive than I usually am. I start getting very rigid in my thinking style. Anything that like deviates from my thinking will almost certainly send me over the edge. I also notice too more like physical signs, like I tend to be more clumsy. Like if I wake up one morning and I'm already like tripping over my feet, or I'm running into the wall, dropping my water, spilling my water, I can start to take note, okay, this might be a more challenging day for me. I might be a little bit more overstimulated today, so I'm going to use that information and just be more aware of it as the day goes on and see what happens. Those are just some things that happen for me. They might be different for you, but it is just a practice that takes some time to like kind of notice, even if it's like after the fact, to kind of like reflect on what happened before, to start like noticing those things within your body. But I mean, I know that it's hard, but it can be really helpful for figuring out like if I should say yes to this thing, or what do I need to do for myself today? And then the last thing that I have on my list is just practicing self-advocacy. I know that this might not feel safe or comfortable or even accessible to everyone, and like I fully understand that, and I can relate in some instances in my life where it might not feel safe to speak up for myself. But also like at home, I feel really safe to do this. Like if there's something as simple as like a sensory trigger in the environment, like maybe just saying, hey, would it be possible if we switch these lights? Like maybe turn on this lamp instead of this bright light, or would it be possible if we move outside? It's really loud in here. Things like that, just kind of like speaking up when we need to. I feel like with all these things, they are such a practice, and it does take time, and I certainly don't have all these things 100% figured out or feeling comfortable with all of them. But with each of these things, it's just like starting small, doing what feels comfortable. Maybe like stepping outside our comfort zones, just like ever so slightly each time to make these things feel a little bit more comfortable. But speaking up for ourselves, advocating for our needs, that's really important, especially in a world where most people might not understand, or most people probably aren't even aware of these things. And we deserve to feel safe, and we deserve to feel comfortable too. So that's my list of ways that I practice self-care as an autistic person. If there's anything that I didn't mention that you do, I would absolutely love if you could share it in the comments below. I'll definitely take a look at that. Maybe I can learn something from that as well. And I want to thank everyone for watching this video, and I really hope that there was something that you could gain or learn from this and apply into your life as well.